A shadow moves across the empty fields of nowhere, bending and twisting in ways that shouldn't be possible. Something is watching, something that isn't alive, yet moves. Pieces of paper flutter like silent soldiers, forming strange shapes, and whispering secrets only the wind can understand. And in the middle of it all, one small, trembling dog hears the whispers, and knows he has to face them. The sun has long disappeared behind the strange, twisted hills of nowhere, leaving a sky that glows a sickly orange and purple. The wind whispers through the tall, crooked grass, carrying a strange sound that is almost like paper scratching across stone. Inside the small, crooked farmhouse, Courage shakes nervously. His ears flick this way and that, his eyes wide, reflecting the flickering candlelight in Muriel's cozy living room. He knows something is wrong. The house feels different tonight, like the walls are holding their breath. From the corner of his eye, he sees it, a small piece of paper hovering in the air, twisting like a leaf caught in a breeze. But this is no ordinary paper. It moves with purpose, as if alive. Courage's tiny heart thumps harder, each beat echoing like a drum in the silent room. He tilts his head, trying to understand. Then more pieces appear, slowly forming shapes that resemble people, yet fragile, hollow, and trembling in a way that seems impossible. They drift closer, their paper limbs flapping softly, whispering a language Courage cannot understand but somehow feels in his bones. Courage backs away, ears pressed flat against his head. He wants to bark, to run, but the paper people seem to anticipate his every move. The house grows colder with each flutter of paper, and shadows twist along the walls, forming faces that aren't really faces. Muriel hums in the kitchen, oblivious, stirring her soup, while Eustace snores in his chair, completely unaware of the creeping danger. Courage is alone in his fear, the weight of the unknown pressing down on him. Outside, the wind rises. The paper figures seem to multiply, their whispers growing louder, sharper, like a chorus of soft, sinister voices. Courage's paws shuffle nervously on the creaking wooden floor. He knows he has to investigate, but every step feels heavier than the last. The audience can see the tension building, the flickering candlelight creating a dance of shadows that move with a life of their own. The air feels thick, almost wet, and the faint smell of old paper and ink lingers, making the scene both eerie and hypnotic. He inches closer to the window, his reflection staring back at him, a small, trembling figure in a house full of strange possibilities. Outside, the paper people pause, as if sensing his gaze. They tilt their heads, flapping softly in unison, creating a rhythmic rustling that fills the night. Courage growls low in his throat, a tiny sound more of a warning to himself than to the intruders. His imagination runs wild. Are they harmless? Are they dangerous? The suspense grips the audience, drawing them into Courage's world of fear and wonder. Suddenly, one paper person detaches from the rest and drifts closer to the window, hovering just beyond the glass. Its form is delicate, almost transparent, yet its presence is undeniable. Courage's tiny body tenses. He presses his paws against the cold window pane, trying to gauge the intentions of this strange visitor. The whispers grow louder, merging into a soft, eerie melody that seems to pull at Courage's mind. He blinks rapidly, unsure whether to retreat or investigate. The camera pans slowly, showing the audience the strange shapes forming outside, each one more bizarre than the last. In that moment, the tone of the episode is set. Courage is small, the stakes are high, and the world of nowhere has just shifted into something even stranger, even more unpredictable. The audience is left hanging on every rustle, every shadow, every tiny movement of the paper people. They sense, just like Courage, that this night will not end quietly, and that facing these fragile yet threatening figures will require more than just courage. It will require heart, wit, and a little bit of luck. The wind outside the farmhouse howls louder now, rattling the crooked shutters and sending a flurry of leaves and paper scraps spiraling through the darkening air. Courage's tiny paws scuttle across the floor as he creeps toward the front door, ears twitching at every rustle. The paper people are no longer just shadows on the edge of the lawn. They are moving with intention, forming strange, jagged shapes that twist in ways no human or dog should understand. They float closer, each figure made entirely of thin, fragile paper, yet their presence feels heavy, almost suffocating. Their whispered voices drift through the air, carried by the wind, soft and insistent, like 1,000 secrets brushing against. Courage stops at the doorway, nose pressed against the cool, cracked wood. His eyes widen as the first paper person steps into the faint light spilling from the house. It's tall, with delicate arms that ripple like ribbons in a breeze, and its head tilts unnaturally as if studying him. Courage lets out a small, nervous, "Yep," but the figure doesn't flinch. It moves with a strange rhythm, almost like it's breathing, although it has no lungs. His heart races. He wants to warn Muriel, but he remembers her comforting voice dismissing his fears so many times before. Tonight, she won't see it. Only Courage can. Suddenly, more paper people appear, emerging from the shadows of the twisted landscape outside. They drift in from every direction, from the fields, the broken fences, even from the cracks in the old barn. Each one is unique, some short and stubby, others tall and spindly, but all share the same unsettling, hollow appearance. Their movements are unnervingly synchronized. They float just above the ground, their edges fluttering in the wind like pages turning in a forgotten book. The whispering grows louder, forming words that almost make sense, but vanish before Courage can understand. The night feels alive, and Courage feels smaller than ever. Trapped in a house that suddenly seems far too large and unfamiliar, he ducks behind the couch, trembling, and peers over the edge. One of the paper people glides into the living room, its thin feet making no sound against the wooden floor. It tilts its head toward him, paper ears flapping slightly, and for a moment it seems almost curious rather than threatening. Courage's tail curls tightly, and he slowly inches forward, trying to follow it. As he does, he notices a subtle pattern. The paper people are circling the house, their movements almost ritualistic, as if they are drawing invisible lines in the air that only they can see. Courage tilts his head, trying to make sense of it. The whispering grows into a soft chant, rhythmic and hypnotic. Courage shakes his head, trying to block it out, but the sounds worm into his mind, filling it with images of paper landscapes stretching endlessly into the night, of faceless figures standing silently in rows, watching. One figure suddenly splits into two, then four, and within moments the room is alive with fluttering, shifting shapes, each one moving independently, yet somehow as part of a single organism. Courage backs into the corner, ears flat, eyes darting. Every instinct in his small body screams to run, but something deeper urges him to stay, to see what these strange visitors want. A sudden creak from the ceiling draws his attention upward. Another paper person drops from the rafters, landing gracefully despite the air currents. Courage yelps, then realizes it's not attacking, it's pointing or gesturing toward the kitchen. Curiosity battles with fear. He steps cautiously toward the stairs, then freezes as a soft, papery hand brushes past his nose. The smell of ink and old parchment fills the air, and for a moment the room seems suspended in time, caught between the ordinary farmhouse and this surreal, paper-filled world. Outside, the wind pushes the paper people closer, forming a wall around the house. The shadows they cast flicker against the walls like moving paintings. Courage hears distant whispers, almost forming words like a story trying to be told but never finishing. He realizes they're not just random figures, they're messengers, carriers of some forgotten tale, yet their intentions remain unknown. The suspense tightens around him, and the audience feels it too, drawn into this delicate, dangerous dance of curiosity and fear. As Courage inches toward the kitchen, a paper figure drifts past, leaving a trail of tiny, crumpled fragments behind. He sniffs at them, then looks up to see dozens more emerging, surrounding the house with silent, watchful presence. His breathing quickens. He knows the discovery is just beginning. These strange paper people are not merely visitors. They are here for a reason, and Courage will have to face them to uncover the truth. The night stretches on, shadows deepening, wind gusting. Courage stands at the edge of the kitchen, trembling, ears twitching, eyes wide. The paper people have made themselves known. Now he must decide whether to hide or confront the unknown. Each step he takes pulls the audience further into the eerie, twisted world of nowhere, where courage is measured not by size but by heart, and the smallest dog must face the strangest of threats to protect the home he loves. The quiet of nowhere is shattered. The paper people are no longer hesitant. They move boldly, filling every corner of the farmhouse with rustling, twisting shapes. Courage's tiny body trembles as he witnesses the strange invaders spreading like a living storm. One figure flutters past his nose, its edges curling as though testing him, and then disappears into the shadows. Another floats across the ceiling, dangling by the tips of its paper limbs like a ghostly chandelier. The air feels thick, almost alive, buzzing with anticipation and tension. Courage knows there is no turning back now. These fragile shapes may be made of paper, but their presence is more dangerous than anything he has faced before. Courage darts between rooms, trying to corral the paper intruders, but they move faster than he can anticipate. Each attempt to catch or block them ends in failure. The figures slip through his paws, twist through cracks in the walls, or fold themselves into shapes too bizarre to comprehend. One paper person lands on the table, flapping violently, scattering Muriel's dishes with a deafening clatter. Courage yelps in terror and frustration, his small paws skidding on the floor as he lunges forward, trying to prevent the chaos. The room feels alive with motion. Paper fragments drift like snow. Shadows flicker across walls, and every corner seems to hide another figure waiting to strike. The house trembles as the wind outside joins the chaos. Paper people swirl around, the windows and doors pressing against the glass, forming walls of fluttering white that seem impenetrable. Courage barks a high-pitched, desperate sound, but it's swallowed by the rustling storm. He notices one figure separating from the group, floating deliberately toward Eustace's chair. The old man snores, unaware, while the paper figure hovers above him, tilting and stretching in unnatural ways. Courage leaps into action, biting at the figure, snapping and tugging. But the paper twists and folds, evading every attack. The chaos is overwhelming, yet courage refuses to give up. The paper people begin to interact with the environment, ripping through curtains, fluttering across the floors, and even creeping into the pantry. Each movement is accompanied by soft tearing noises and the whisper of paper rubbing against itself. Courage tries to follow, leading the audience through a tense maze of destruction. Every object in the house becomes a potential hazard: a falling chair, a swinging door, a loose piece of wallpaper. The tension builds as Courage realizes these invaders are not just chaotic, they are clever, almost playful in a sinister way. They anticipate his moves, testing his courage at every turn. Courage's mind races. He tries to strategize, darting under tables, leaping onto counters, and using objects in the house as barriers. He flicks a lamp, sending light bouncing across the room to distract the figures. One paper person swirls around the lamp's glow, hesitating, its edges glowing slightly in the flickering light. Courage seizes the moment, lunging forward to push it into a corner, but another figure intercepts, creating a surreal dance of paper and shadow. The room feels alive, a living puzzle of rustling white, with Courage at the center. Small but determined, the audience feels the tension as Courage's bravery grows despite his fear. He begins to notice patterns in the paper. People's movements. They respond to sound, light, and even his own motions. Courage experiments, clapping, stomping, and waving objects, discovering that he can influence their behavior, at least slightly. This small victory energizes him, giving the audience a sense of hope amidst the chaos. Yet the threat remains. Relentless, the paper people regroup, forming larger, more menacing shapes that seem almost monstrous. Suddenly, a paper figure folds itself into a sharp, spiky shape and charges at Courage. He leaps aside just in time, the spikes slicing the air and tearing small pieces from the surrounding walls. The house trembles, teetering on the edge between order and total collapse. Courage realizes he cannot fight them all at once. He must outsmart them. His cleverness shines as he uses mirrors, shadows, and the natural bends of the house to confuse the figures, sending them scattering in directions he chooses. The audience watches, heart pounding, as this small dog faces a surreal, living nightmare with nothing but wit and bravery. The chaos reaches its peak as the paper people surround the center of the living room, whispering together in a low, rustling chorus. Courage circles them, thinking fast, darting between gaps and looking for a weakness. He notices one figure hesitating, slightly separate from the rest, its edges fraying. A plan forms in his mind. Courage takes a deep breath, his small chest rising and falling, and prepares to confront the strange, fragile army with the only weapon he has, his courage. The stage is set for the final confrontation, where wit, heart, and bravery will clash with the mysterious, eerie presence of the paper people. The wind howls, shadows stretch, and the rustling grows into a deafening, chaotic symphony. Courage stands firm, trembling but resolute. The audience can almost feel the tension vibrating through the screen, knowing that the smallest dog in nowhere may be the only hope against this surreal invasion. The stage is set, the challenge clear, and the surreal, twisted world of nowhere has never felt more alive or more dangerous. Courage's small paws press against the floor, trembling with adrenaline as he faces the largest cluster of paper people yet. The rustling has grown into a soft, almost rhythmic chant, like the wind itself has learned to whisper in paper tones. Each figure leans slightly toward him, fragile edges quivering, their hollow eyes fixed. The chaos of earlier moments fades slightly, replaced by a tense anticipation. Courage knows he can't fight them all head-on. He must think, act, and use his wits to survive. He notices the figure that had hesitated earlier, the one with fraying edges, slightly separate from the rest. Courage's ears perk up. This paper person seems different, less rigid, almost like it's listening. Carefully, he edges closer, tapping his paw lightly against the floor. The figure responds by stepping back, then forward, tilting like it's trying to communicate. Courage huffs softly, ears flattened, his eyes narrowing in concentration. He realizes that if he can guide this single figure, it might influence the others. Slowly, he begins a careful dance, circling and pawing, leading the hesitant figure toward the open doorway. As the first figure moves, the others pause, rustling softly in confusion. Courage's tiny heart beats faster. He nudges the paper figure along, step by step, weaving it past the scattered furniture, under the hanging light fixtures and toward the yard outside. The rustling chorus of whispers becomes uneven, chaotic. Each paper person seems to hesitate, watching the first figure's movements. Courage seizes the moment, darting and weaving, his small body moving like a lightning bolt through the paper maze. One by one, the other figures begin to follow the first, creating a surreal parade of fluttering, folding shapes moving toward freedom outside. The wind is calmer now, soft and steady, guiding the paper people away from the house. They float into the moonlit fields, their whispers fading into the night, leaving trails of torn, crumpled fragments behind. Courage watches carefully, tail tucked low but eyes sharp, making sure no figure lingers. Finally, the last paper person drifts beyond the horizon, its delicate shape bending in the breeze before disappearing entirely. Silence falls over the farmhouse once more, though it feels different, charged, like the air itself remembers the strange events. Courage exhales, his tiny chest rising and falling, muscles relaxing. He has survived the surreal storm. Muriel steps into the living room, carrying a cup of tea, completely oblivious to the paper invasion. "Courage, dear, are you all right?" she asks, her warm voice cutting through the lingering tension. Courage trots over, his ears still twitching, but relief washing over his small face. Eustace snores in his chair, completely unaware of the night's events. Courage gives a small bark, almost triumphant, then nudges a crumpled paper fragment under the rug as if to erase the traces of the chaos. The house looks almost normal now, yet shadows linger slightly, the corners sharper, the wind whispering faintly, hinting that nowhere's mysteries are far from over. As Courage settles near the fireplace, shaking slightly but proud, the camera pans across the yard. Tiny scraps of paper glitter in the moonlight, fluttering like memories of the night's strange occurrences. A single paper figure, larger and more intact than the others, flutters briefly at the edge of the forest before dissolving into the darkness. It's a reminder that the paper people were not merely visitors, they were part of a larger, unknown story, a surreal presence that nowhere alone could hold. Courage tilts his head, ears perked, as if listening for another whisper, another rustle, but the night remains quiet. The resolution brings a subtle sense of wonder alongside relief. Courage has faced something truly unusual, something that defies reason, yet his bravery has kept his family safe. The audience feels his triumph, understanding that courage is not about size or strength, but about heart and quick thinking. Though the house is peaceful, the lingering sense of mystery reminds viewers that nowhere is never entirely safe, never completely ordinary. Courage's adventure is over for now, but the world he inhabits remains strange, dark, and endlessly fascinating. Finally, Courage curls near Muriel's feet, tail wrapping around his small body. The wind outside carries a soft rustling like distant echoes of the paper people, leaving the audience with a chilling yet whimsical reminder: in nowhere, even the smallest, most fragile things can hold power, and courage comes in the tiniest forms. The screen fades to black as the whispers die away, leaving viewers with awe, suspense, and the unmistakable feeling that nowhere will always have secrets waiting to be discovered.